I want y'all to know we are recorded, so there's nothing y'all don't want to say, don't say it. One, two, three, okay. I want to thank everyone for coming today, for joining, for watching, for being a part of the conversations, those here, those listening in the future. We thank you. We honor you. Before we begin, I would like to invite everyone to just take a moment for the day. We don't know what day we've all had, but we hope that we are all here together and present. So I ask you just to take a few moments to inhale and exhale and be present with your breath. That is all that we have to keep us going. So in this moment, we are offering light to those that are here with us and those that will be watching in the future. And we just ask that we come here with positive intentions to share, to grow, to be in community, and to heal. So I thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being present this moment. And on behalf of Gather and Heal, welcome. So welcome. Y'all, it's our first event. We amp. You know what I'm saying? We trying to do a thing. So thank you all again. We are Gathering Here. My name is Jennifer. I will be your moderator of this dope, amazing panel. Before we begin, just a quick background of who we are. For those that are new, Gathering Here is a membership community for Black and Latinx women where they can show up as their genuine self and work on exploration, healing, and their mental health. At Gathering Here, we believe we heal in community, we heal together, and that's what we are here to do. Just some quick basic ground rules. We use our platform to have authentic dialogue with and for Black and Latinx women as we come together in community. We encourage our audience to listen and to share respectfully. Please no soliciting, no trying to push your business or promo. If you want to do that, hit us up at hey@gatheringheal.us. And to find this information, we will be sharing it with those that registered, and we will be posting some clips on social media for those that didn't get to enjoy all the fun. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our dope panelists in no particular order. This is just how it came up in my email search, y'all, just so you know. I like to be very honest. First, I would like to welcome Regine Amos. Correct? Am I saying it right?
Regine?
Regine! I knew it. And I told Vanessa, I was like, girl, her name is Regine. She was like, her name is Rain. I was like, all right. I was like, I believe you.
I heard his name. My bad.
Rain, I apologize.
It's okay. It came from Living Single. My grandmother named me.
I knew it! She was one of the best characters ever. Well, Regine, thank you for joining us. Never again. But to give you a brief background of this beautiful soul named Regine, she is a mental health advocate and an MSW student. She is passionate about building community and is on her own journey of intergenerational healing. Praise be with you and all that light and love. She wants to continue in her passion of community building skills and creating safe places that allow people for open and vulnerable conversations. Regine, thank you for joining us today. Next up, we have Veronica Agard. Hey, Veronica. Born and raised in Atlanta Island, Veronica Agard is a Brooklyn-based writer and educator whose identity is inseparable from her work as someone of Afro-Caribbean, African-American, Indigenous descent. Through her writing and organizing, she proudly defines herself as a connector at the intersections of Black identity, creative wellness, representation, and culture, while she experiments with forms of healing. Let's talk. With the recent bylines at Redefining Our Womanhood, Black Girl Magic, Life as Ceremony, and Black and Well, Veronica curated the Who Heals the Healer experience, facilitates the Ancestors in Training educational project, and is a contributing editor with Your Magic. Veronica believes in being believed in. Veronica, thank you so much for joining us today, girl.
Thanks for having me. I'm sorry. I'm like doing the little curtain thing because every time I hear somebody like read that bio, I'm just like, yowza, that's actually me.
Yeah.
So that's That's what
That and then some. That and then some, okay? So remember that. All right, up next, last but not least, y'all, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Vanessa Sujey, our founder and CEO of Gathering Heal. Yes, 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 yes. Now, Vanessa is a social worker by trade, having graduated from Arizona State University. She, along with being the fantastic founder of Sustaining Hope and Wellness and creative CEO of Gathering Heal, is also a writer and a speaker. She was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, whoop whoop to 617, and is a biracial Afro-Latina and IVF mama. She's passionate about connecting with others through travel, learning, reading, and growth. So Vanessa, thank you for not only coming to your own event, because you should, but to truly creating this platform of Gathering Heal so that we could come through as our whole self, genuine, with no regard to anybody else but ourselves, so that we could work on our healing and our mental health. So thank you, Vanessa. Hey. You're like mad quiet. Don't get shy now. Now, we are going to have this conversation as honest, as authentic as we can have, but also being respectful to our community, who we are, and what we're trying to do. It's asking me to share my screen, so I'm going to hit cancel. I don't know if anybody else heard that there. Okay. Fine. And I apologize because I am hot in this house because I had to turn off my fan. So if you see this glow, y'all, this is all for y'all. This is all for y'all. So we just finished watching In Our Mother's Gardens. I would love to hear from each and one of you. What's the initial reaction? What's the feedback? Regine. Okay, look for Vanessa. Regine, I'm gonna start with you. Please let me know your take of In Our Mother's Garden, especially in what the work that you do in community building and building these spaces for conversation.
This was my first time watching it. I've had it on my like Netflix to watch list for a very long time. But grad school does not allow me to do everything I want to do. So it was just, I don't know, I just felt very connected to it. It was very inspiring. And it was this idea that popped into my brain that like I've always had a connection to my ancestors. I just didn't have the names for it when I was a child. And I think it's super, super cool because Veronica was talking about in the, what was it, the chop up, about when you being an only child and how much you care about relationships. I was also an only child. My mom did wind up raising my cousin, but so I had a sister-ish type of life. But for the most part, it was me talking to myself. And like it's so crazy to think about like that connection and those conversations that I have with myself. I've been doing my whole life. And I think it's so cool now that I'm putting that together like, wow, you probably wasn't even talking to yourself at 8 years old because you didn't know what you was talking about. So it was just really relieving. It was really relieving to just experience that. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Listen, thank you for sharing, because they were dropping some truth there. It's just like how to make you look twice. I'm gonna bring Veronica up as the bones of ancestors in training in this being your everyday field. How do you look at this documentary and the work that you do, knowing that this is your work? How real was it?
It was real for me because everybody in my life basically yelled at me to go watch it when it dropped. And I was like, why am I being, as an Aquarius moon, I don't like being told what to do. I can be contrary. So I was like, I'm gonna wait since everybody's on my phone talking about it. And then it came up when I was teaching. I just finished teaching ancestors in training with the CD Nash Leadership Project Youth, like the third summer that I've done it. Except that was the first summer virtual, so that went the way that it went. But once I finally did watch it, because somebody mentioned it over there, I was like, all right, this is too loud. I need to watch this. So then when I did, I was like, oh, I get it. Let me add it to the syllabus right now. So watching it again, because I've watched it before, um, I picked up on other nuances, or there's other scenes. Like the first time I watched it, I was geeking about Dr. Martha Morena Vega being in it. And then this past time, just now, I was like Team Coco. I was like, there's gems in it for everybody, with respect to all the work that everybody in the clip, not just the clip, like the whole film actually. I have a lot of feelings about it, but I was just like, I felt like a kindred spirit amongst like all the people that were featured, even Shantrelle, because I'm like, I don't know her, but I feel like I know her, so it felt good.
For real, like I want to be Coco's like niece. Like I need her to like hook me up because she started speaking about the jewelry, and I was like, yo, like when she said you got to slap somebody with this jewelry, I was like, I need to start wearing jewelry where I can slap somebody. Because people out here in these streets wilding out. But nonetheless, let's go back, right? So, Vanessa, I would like to get your input in this, and Regine, if you could piggyback also in the work that you do. Mother-daughter relationships can be real tricky when it comes to mental health and healing. And in the work that you do, Vanessa, as a clinical social worker, how do you address those, especially being a daughter and being a mother now? Do you ever get like, sometimes you're like, ooh, ethical practice makes me want to say something else, but I understand certain feelings. How does it show up in the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually gonna do the grandmother approach. So, like I had commented under one of the posts, it was really thinking about the impact that my relationship with my grandmother had on my life while I was growing up. And now this is my maternal grandmother. So my maternal grandmother is Italian. And so hence the biracial component in my life. And much as I love her, obviously, and how much she was a huge influence in my life, I do wonder what our relationship would look like now, right? Like if she were still with us, what our relationship would look like, what some of our conversations would look like. Would we still have a relationship, right? Because there's some deep truth and some deep realities that I grew up with and that I have experienced and continue to experience. And now insert me being a mother and thinking about my son, that's not anything that my grandmother had to experience. It's not a part of her life, and it wasn't. And so I am curious. I obviously it's something that it's not going to be answered, but it does bring pause. It does have me reflect back on growing up biracial, and also now raising my son.
Right. And thank you for sharing that, right? Because culture does make a difference in how we relate to our ancestors and how they relate to us. And Regina, I would love to get your input as someone that's in the process of learning about the social work field, and in this new age of ancestor worship, and maybe understanding the intersections of blackness or culture with identity. How do you approach helping someone within their healing process and understanding that maybe those conversations aren't going to happen?
Um, I've well, I've learned that within my family and within how I view things is meeting them where they are and having to understand that I'm going to be okay with that. Like knowing that what they're giving me is all that I need, is all I need, because that's just how the spirit, in my opinion, works. What they gave me and the words and the stories that they give me and the stories I try to create and get from my family members, that's what I need, and that's what I can use to carry on. So with other people, I try to instill this idea of understand that it may not be everything that you want, the apology, the tears, the sadness, but it will be hopefully what you need. And it can give you that peace at least. If it's not even the forgiveness or the sorry or the whatever you're looking for, it can get you to where you ultimately want to go. If we just kind of look at it like, okay, I didn't get what I asked for, but I know that I got what I needed in the situation. And that's how I look at it.
Thank you for that, right? Because I know I have been missed some apologies. Or like you said, like even just having that conversation um, or acknowledgement. Veronica, I saw you with the okay, and you know you out here teaching us to be with our ancestors, and we might not flex with all our ancestors, right? So how do we come from a place of accepting that we're not gonna get it, but also knowing like maybe they were trash, or maybe they hurt us in a way that crosses a boundary that we hope. Please, let's go. Talk to us. The juices.
Oh, you're not, because there's Juju Bay, who goes by It's Juju Bay on the internet streets. She does a lot of this work. I adore her podcast. She's a resource in the syllabus as well. She does these videos now on TikTok, but then she'll post them on IG about this, and it's like comical, but it's like addressing this exact statement around like people who are descendants of enslaved Africans, like at the altar, trying to talk to their ancestors, and the white ancestors. There's a clip where basically she has these flowers for her altar, and her white ancestors are like, "Oh, this is for me," and she's like, "Nope, it's not for you," right? So there's people that are in that camp, right, that are descended from slavery, that are like, "Yo, you got here, how can I say this politely? In a funny style way. You got here in a very like less than ideal. You probably shouldn't have that 15 to 20 or even higher percentage if you've been able to do a DNA test of your whiteness, right? And I think that sometimes, well, not sometimes, as someone who's descended from slavery in the South on my mom's side, I know when I did my test, I came back like maybe, I want to say like 15%, white. But my mom, she came back like closer to 20, and she wanted to fight somebody. She was like, I've been lied to. I don't like this. But she wanted to fight. And then my grandmother, she had more. But then if you look at my grandmother phenotypically, she's lighter than me, right? But when we start talking about our altars and our ancestors, we also have to consider that some of the stories that people told us about our ancestry might not necessarily be correct. And they were doing that from a place of trauma. So, for example, oh, you've got that good hair because you got Indian, meaning indigenous to the Americas, in your family. And then you do the DNA test, and it's like, okay, it's not that you want to call your ancestors a liar, but somebody, as opposed to digging into all of the trauma, they created a story that helped them heal to be able to move on, right? So, like, that's how I think about it. Now, did that happen in my family? In my case, no, but like, I know too many people that thought the DNA test was going to go one way. And especially if they're into ancestral practices, they're like, okay, should I even practice this anymore? Which is its own thing around, and I could talk about this ad nauseum, about the importance of whatever ancestral practice you do, whatever it is, that it should be indigenous to the people that you come from, right? And I mean indigenous meaning everywhere across the world, we are indigenous to a piece of land. So you should be striving to practice that, right? Not somebody else's. It's like what Elder Coco said, right? Like, they got you out here worshiping George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. And it's like, yeah, we don't necessarily need to do that as Black and brown people. Like, we have our sites of worship. It just might be that we need to go back a little bit or start over, especially if stuff got complicated. We might have to start over.
Right. So, in terms of that, obviously, in some of the story, like we heard, like there were some like overall there is like I apologize if you hear the background. There is a divine spirit within everyone's story that is essentially a form of God. And then there seems to be within everyone's story some form of faith or understanding that leads them to that. I would love to hear from each of you within the perspective of what you guys do. How can someone kind of merge those two pieces of it? Because when we think about mental health, we're not thinking about maybe saying a prayer to, our great aunt that passed away before we was even born, or we're not thinking about the impact maybe our mental health comes from someone before us that we might not even know. So how can we kind of intertwine these forms of essentially healing and conversation into maybe a dance, a unison, a sancocho of sorts, a gumbo of sorts, right? How can we take that? Vanessa, feel free to hop on that conversation.
I love that. And I think that that's a piece of what makes Gather and Heal different and what makes Gather and Heal unique is that, and even in my own private practice with clients one-on-one, we will stop and say a prayer to an aunt who has passed away years before, or, before my client was even born, but they know that there is a connection, even if they can't put their finger on it, right? So that's where finding a therapist or finding a community that understands how you want to show up in the world and how you want to connect with the land that we are on, the ancestors that we're connected with, family, whether it be blood family or chosen family, that it's understood, right? And not all therapists get that. Not all people who are in the mental health field or in the helping field or in the healing realm, whatever you want to call it, they don't all get that. They don't all understand the importance that has. But one of the women, I can't remember who it was because I was just out here taking all my notes, but there were quite a few instances of intergenerational trauma and some awareness of its impact on how the matriarchs in the family continue to raise the future generations, right? Direct correlation. And that's where we talk about, or that's where I talk about legacy burden, right? There are parts of us, our bodies, and our history that we hold on to without necessarily being able to name it, but it shows up in how we show up in the world. And I know it's part of my personal mission to make sure that we give word and space and whatever it is that each individual needs to address all of that. So I felt like I rambled, but I think I answered the question.
Facts. Regina, Veronica, would anybody like to express on how their work? Veronica's like,
Yeah, no, I was like, yowza, and legacy burdens, right? So I'm gonna start from there, right? When we talk about faith, um, something that, and we're talking about mothers, something that my mother instilled in me because she used to teach, right? Is that, and it's a part of my personal mantra, and it's pretty much, it just says everything that we do is an extended deliberate practice, right? So in the teaching sense, it's like, if you're not good at math, you have to study it, you have to practice, you have to do all that work until it sinks, until it makes sense, right? I view faith and spirituality and wellness and those kind of practices, right, as things that have to be extended and have to be deliberate, right? So that way we can get rid of some of those legacy burdens and flip them, right? Because I believe in both and. So like both, we can have legacy burdens and we can actually be the ones to be like, okay, this is going to stop with us, right? And I think a part of that framework is why I enjoy working with youth, because I'm like, all right, if I can't fix it, or if it's not in my lifetime, like maybe like the youth will have figured out some of the stuff that we didn't necessarily get to figure out, right? But I think it's hard to, I think a part of that kind of faith or that kind of mindset is understanding that you can't make everybody come with you. And that's scary, right? Especially for Black and brown people. Like you want, like what did Issa Rae say? I'm rooting for everybody Black, right? Like we want everybody that is similar to us and we empathize with and we can relate with, chosen family, spiritual family, everywhere in between. We want them to win, right? But I think sometimes, especially with faith, you can't invite anybody into a practice of healing, of self-care or whatever, if they can't give themselves that exact kind of faith. So it's like you can have, here's another version of that. You can have all the altars in the world, but if you don't take care of your body, which is your first altar, then it's a wash. Right? So it's like, how do you have faith in yourself? How do you restore yourself? How do you big up yourself? How do you bless yourself? How do you anoint yourself, right? Like, how do you walk through that before you slide into somebody's DMs talking about, I need a reading? That's faith to me. Like having like actual investment in yourself before, during, and after you either seek being in relationship with other people, other practitioners, before you start offering other services, like you name it, it doesn't matter if you don't have faith in yourself. Because if you don't have faith in yourself, then you don't have faith in your ancestors, and your ancestors are probably like we did not go through what we went through for you to doubt yourself. That's a meme somewhere, but yeah.
No, facts. I hear that. And one of the, and I want to say is Elder Coco, might have mentioned it in a few people, they talked about intention, right? And it's like, how are you being intentional in just like even offering or discussing or trying to connect with your ancestors and intentional connecting with yourself? And I would bring this back to like how Gather and Heal really is here for like, this is for you. Like you're showing up for yourself as your whole self because you need to heal yourself. And how we support people in connecting with themselves is providing them the platform to explore, right? Providing this opportunity for these conversations of like healing and ancestry. For people whose profession is healing, and Regine, I want to start with you. Like, how did this commitment to your community in form of healing, whether it be with your workshops or community building or just like you said, creating space for vulnerability, where did this passion come for you, and how are you finding your moments of healing for yourself within that community? Sorry if it's a loaded question.
No, that's fine. I feel like this has always been my calling. I feel like this is a generational thing. Like I feel like being a healer is in my family. My grandmother was a healer. My mom kind of strayed away from that, so I fell somewhere in the middle because my mom was more closed off and my grandmother was very emotional and took on everybody's emotion. And I was like, I gotta find somewhere because neither of those, I don't want either of those completely. So I had to figure out where I fell in there. And that's how I wind up, and genuinely with exploration, like going to different types of churches, learning different types of methods, and just really sitting with like, okay, cool, I know that, but now where did I come from, and why don't I resonate with this, and why am I so annoyed when someone says these things to me? You know what I mean? So I really had to kind of be like, all right, leaving these items, and let's go all the way back and see if I can find the beginning. And if it's not even the beginning, at least find a area or something that I can connect to and be like, okay, this is it. I get it. It makes sense. So just really exploring is what helped me. And like I said, I feel like I was just always a healer. I feel like, if I'm being honest, prior to like during COVID, I had like a really rough time, couldn't stand anything. And then finally found social work, went to school. And then I genuinely feel like my ancestors were like, oh, we've been telling you this. Like, I don't know what's going on. We gave you time after time after time. So now I feel that connection even stronger where I was like, okay, I got it. I heard y'all. I'm doing it. my bad, because I wanted to do whatever. I was like, I want to do social media. I want to be a journalist. And they were like, no, no, no. Like, what are you not getting? So I think it's just meant for me. And that is what makes me like most happy. So I'm really excited about that. I hope I answered your question. I don't know if you had another one.
Listen, bless. Shout out to you. Listen to your ancestors, because I'm pretty sure they put some blocks in your way, and you're like, no. That's how they roll. Go for it. Yes.
That COVID depression, in my opinion, was them being like, okay, here we go. The whole world's shutting down, and so is yours. So we
Mm-hmm.
gotta get it together. So I was like, okay, y'all got it, y'all got it. So yeah, there was a lot of roadblocks, a lot of no's. And at first I was like, I have to keep pushing. And it's like, no, you're pushing for the wrong avenue. And then when I moved into the correct avenue, things were just kind of like falling into place. And I was like, this is kind of at least a little bit easier.
Facts. Bless. Well, bless for your avenues to open. I'm gonna give it to Veronica and Vanessa. In the interest of time, it is 9, and I want to make sure that we do not hold everyone up. And if any of our audience has a question, please raise your hand, and we will get to it right after. But Vanessa, ma'am, I mean, I already know why you're doing Gather and Heal. You know where that passion comes from, but explain it for the other folks here.
Well, I was just going to actually piggyback and say that, that feeling that you had of clarity and calm is a part of one of the foundational components to Gather and Heal is, when we are fully aligned and we are leading with our self energy, things just map out the way that they're supposed to for us, not supposed to because somebody else told us to, but for us, right? And it was clear to you. Once it all clicked, it was super clear, and you got creative on how to make it happen. And that's why there's Gather and Heal, because I want to create a space where we can do that for each other and where we can support one another in arriving and living in our true, genuine, self-led energy. But yeah, that's the short and sweet of why Gather and Heal. And as always, like, I'm not the expert. I don't care how many letters end up behind my name. I don't care about degrees, none of that stuff, because all that stuff is textbook, one. And two, I had to revamp most of it anyways to make it work for our communities, because that shit in the textbook, you know what? We're not gonna do that. Y'all already know what I'm talking about. It wasn't made for us. Let's just throw it out. So yeah.
Biggity facts, self-education, change it up. Okay, that's why we have this little sancocho gumbo soup popping off. Uh, Veronica, let us know, because you are here leading a whole group of people trying to heal and go into the ancestry work. You're on the other side. We got Regine and Vanessa work here with like the textbooks, the social work program. You are here like, so we gonna say this candle work.
We gonna do the things outside of academia, in institutions, like in different communities, and just try again make it accessible, get it to the root, right? And I think that that's something that I learned from working with youth, because I'm like, if I can't explain it to them, then it doesn't matter, Like, I can have the fanciest presentation, but if I'm not as responsive to them, it's a challenge. I think, bouncing off of what Regine shared, I feel very much grateful that I was doing ancestors in training before COVID, that I had a relationship and still do with my ancestors. I'm so glad that I knew what to do and I knew where my wellness kit was, so that way if folks needed something or were into whatever, like, I could just, try and reach the people through the tech and throw it out there. And something that I realized is that there's a lot of hunger for that, or a lot of seeking of these kind of things, because folks are trying to figure out how to cope with grief, trying to cope with grief themselves, like grief over, even the quote smaller things around events they didn't get to go to, weddings, birthdays, gatherings, right? Like those kind of spaces where we get to get together, we get to collect a lot of our narratives and our oral histories and our traditions. And then we're also grieving the climate, doing what it's doing. We're grieving or not grieving a lot of people dying all at once. So I think that there is a need, or it's not a need, there's an invitation, meaning people can choose to accept it or not, around being in touch with their ancestors and having a relationship with them, and also being a good human and trying to do the work, whatever that calling is, whatever, unfolds and presents itself really in a way that invites ease and grace. Those are two words that are important to me right now. And I think that that's why I say it's an invitation to do that kind of work, to be an ancestor in training. Like, it's not something that I can be like, bop, you should do this. It's like, no, like if you have not arrived at that place in yourself yet, then all of my words, all of my fancy IG carousels will not hit for you. They won't, right? So it's like, how can we actually make sure that we're doing this in a way that's not just in service to our ancestors or in service to those that are going to come after us, but it's like, how can we do that so that way we're being in service in service to ourselves. Sorry, I'm laughing at the chat for the recording. But yeah, I just have this sense of like being very grateful to be doing the work that I do, and to just keep going in a way that is sustainable for me too, because I think that this is Who Heals the Healer speaking, but it's like, how can we actually make sure that those of us that are holding these kind of spaces are actually making sure that we're good? And I think that that's where community care comes in. I don't believe in just self-care. You could do all the salt baths in the world, but if you don't have a community, then I don't know. But I talk a lot, so.
No, but it's right though. Like, we're all here for the community, and that is one of the pillars that we stand on, right? We heal in community, we heal together. That's what we say, that's what we do. And you're right. So, I know it's passing 9:10. I do want to leave before we end and thank you ladies with one quote that was actually said during the recording, which was, you can't get to healing if you don't talk about it. And just this 30-minute conversation of us just expressing healing, talking about what that looks like within ancestors, within ourselves, in our journey. Hopefully we each left with maybe like a different thought, a different perspective, or just knowing that someone is exploring and it's cool, and maybe that allows me to explore too. So if you guys ever want to explore in community, Gather and Heal is there. I thank you all for joining. For those that are watching later on, Veronica, Vanessa, and Regine, thank you so much for joining us. All our viewers, thank you. We appreciate you. Any last words? Maybe a plug, you know what I'm saying? Hit them up on gatheringheal.us. I'm going to say it for the team. Veronica, you want to plug?
Ancestors in Training on Instagram, website samename.org. Vero's Got the Juice on most digital streets. Yeah.
Regine, hit him. Where can they find you? Let's go.
So my Instagram is letsunpackdat, D-A-T. So yeah, you can follow me there.
A boss lady. Vanessa Sujey. Final words.
I mean, you already know. Instagram, where it's at. That's where we're at anyways. The only virtual streets you'll find us on.
Damn that COVID. Listen, we're all, may the energy forces guide us into a better 2020 where we could be in community together. But in the meantime, we will be community online. Every Thursday we're there. So you already know, guys. Thank you so much, everyone. You have a blessed evening. I am Jennifer. It's been a pleasure to host our first event ever, not our last. We'll be here next month for another event. Stay tuned. And thank you all for joining. Peace, y'all.
Bye.